In the last tutorial, we did the I'm sorry, the first part of tutorial 0701. It was 0 T0701A. And this one we'll do T07-01B. I'm going to use the same file I was using for the first part of this tutorial. So I'm just going to open that again. If you already have it open, you're already ahead of me. Let me open this one again. I'm just going to double click on my title. Never mind what you're seeing in the background there. That's another file I have open. By the way, if it opens up and you have the navigation pane collapsed like this, just click on those zeros here and it'll expand it out. I'm sure you figured that out by now. And always check to make sure that it's enabled. I usually go and hit up there where it says File. And if it's not enabled, I'll have a little thing here, that little button that says to enable it. Okay, right now I don't see that. Instead, I see the compact and repair. I'm kind of glad I opened this because I've been meaning to talk to you about this encrypt with password. Don't do that. Okay, that was really something that was built into this to allow some level of protection that is very, very buggy. And I've also been told that it could cause some macro commands not to work very well. So we'll talk about securing our database a little bit when we move to the second tutorial in this particular lesson. But right now, let's go back. And I'm going to open up my switchboard object in design mode. Because there's some things I really should point out about the switchboard, things you may want to do when you're working on yours, and some things that confuse students sometimes. First off, you look at these three areas here look like they're tab controls. They're not. They're not. Okay, all this is a box where I put a label on it and made it look like as if it's a tab. This is just, again, you can see here, if I highlight there, that highlights, this highlights. Those are all just basically boxes, okay? And you get those right here. It's called a rectangle control. It's interesting. They call it a control, but it doesn't have any functional purpose whatsoever. It's just there so you could add some pizzazz to your screen, and I use it a lot. The other one I use a lot is this one that's a line, where you can use a line to segment parts of your form or your report. These are both there for both forms and reports. So right now you're seeing a lot of rectangles where I just put them on there, built them up, changed the border of them, changed the background color, and made them to look like they're as if they're tab controls. Now, something people often ask me, could I use tab control on the switchboard? And the answer is absolutely. Absolutely. I could have had tab control that had managed data and then all the buttons for managing the data, and then one that said review reports, another tab for that, and have all this stuff in there. Another one that said review mailings and put that in there. You could definitely do that. Keep in mind always that the switchboard form is not bound to anything. You're not managing data to it. Okay, you won't have controls that will be bound to fields because there is no record source for the form. So putting a tab control on there does nothing more than help you to organize buttons or controls that help you navigate basically on this form. But you are free to do that. And in fact, I will show, hopefully toward the end of the class, an application I've actually been working on for work where I actually do something like that. I have navigation. I had so many I would have had so many buttons, so many different navigation methods that I decided to actually, and they all tended to be for certain things at the same time. That I grouped them and I actually put them into a tab control with multiple pages for each of the groupings. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing people always notice is you've got a picture back there. How do I do that? The students love doing these kind of things. They love putting pictures. They think, wow, I put a picture there. He's going to give me a lot of points. Nah, because it's an easy thing, you know. But I want you to do it at the same time. I would consider the fact that you've made an attempt to at least make things look a little bit better. I hope you would do more than just add a picture in the background. But to do that, if you come, you would think that would be something you put on the canvas. So you click on here, to go to to the canvas, but you'll see there's nothing in there to put a picture on there. There's no property about a background picture. Believe it or not, it's on the form. It's a form property. So come over here and click in this area, one of these areas off the form, and you'll bring up the form property sheet. And you'll see there's one that says picture, and you could place whatever picture you want in there. Now, you're probably going to make sure that the picture is sized to whatever size you want this. It will attempt to stretch it to make it fit, okay? And in fact, if you look at below it, it'll say things like picture tiling. If the picture doesn't fit and you say tile yes, it'll start repeating the picture. Sometimes people do that. They'll put a very small picture that maybe only would take up this much space, and then they'll say tile it, and then you'll see it repeated all the way through this like this. That's kind of interesting. The other thing you could do is have one that isn't quite the size of your canvas. Give the canvas a color, but then say picture center, and then it'll be on there, and then around it will be the border, the color. It'll look like a colored border that you put around it. So you could do things like that. This one, I knew the exact size of the picture underneath it, so I just told it to center it and then stretch it to stretch it so it fits. In case I did get a little bit bigger, if I did, expand this out here, let's do that. I'll expand it out a little bit, and you'll see it stretched it out a little bit. What it's really doing here is I think it's cropping it. Let me see. Is that right? Yeah, I think it did. I think it cropped it a little bit when I did that. So, anyway, you can play around with that. Now, the picture itself, though, once you place that in there, it's in there. All right. If you want to change it, you have to come back and change it. It's not like you could just click on this, say delete, and it goes away. All right. It doesn't do that. The way to put it in there is you go in here. You'll have a drop down here. Any pictures that uh, that this knows about will be in that drop down. And what I'm saying is, if you drop this picture somewhere else, it will be there then, and you can pick it again if you want to. But I always use this dot dot dot, and then that brings up your file explorer, and you look for the JPEG image. It has to be either a JPEG image. I think it will work with a bitmap image. Yeah, it does. It says right here. It looks for a BMP. Oh, it's got a whole bunch of them now. It used to only have a couple. All right, PNG. It works with a PNG image too. So picked image and all that. JFIF. I've never used those very often, but different kinds of JPEG extensions. It looks like it'll work with all of them. It used to be limited just BPM and JPEG before. I think I've always just used JPEG, and I think for icons it's limited to BPM, bitmap images. So, and I'll show that later on sometime. But usually a JPEG image will work there. And I even call mine switchboard dash background. It's something I found out there on the internet. It was a picture of fruits and vegetables. Again, this is an international marketplace, so I thought that'd be a nice colorful background, especially since I got all this other color in there. So a little bit, kind of just some information about designing and all that. People also sometimes ask me, can I delete these? Don't delete the I and the X. Okay, leave them on there. Can you make them a different icon? If you know enough about how to do that, yeah, feel free, okay? But I want you to have those on every application that we build, all right? So I want you to be able to bring up the dialog box. I want you to have a smart way of getting out of this. People can always come up here I'm up here in the very right hand corner of my screen. Come up here and hit close, and the whole thing closes down. That could be dangerous. All right. Well, and now, unfortunately, because it's a window and it's a Microsoft Windows window for the application, and not an access control that we can manipulate. I can't turn that off. It's always going to be on. Reason I say to be careful about it, people, you need to be careful about it, is because be aware people could be in the middle of say managing a record in a form, and they hit that. I think most of the time, if the record hasn't been saved, Microsoft will prompt, "Do you want to save your record?" I don't know if it'll do it all the time. All right, so just be careful on that. Make sure. You know what? I step back there. I'm absolutely positive if you haven't saved information, it'll first prompt you if you want to save it. But if they say no and they hit that, then it's gone. They lost it. So same thing obviously when you're designing a database, a object or a controller or whatever else. You might be in the middle of it. If you hit that, click that button, you haven't saved that thing, it could go away. It typically will prompt you again. Do you want to save the work you've been doing? And if you say yes, then it will, and then it'll close down. If you don't have anything to save, though, if you say you open up something in design view but you didn't do anything, hit that, it'll go away. And same thing if they open up a record and they don't make any changes to the record and they hit that, it'll just close down, no problem. Um, but I really like to be able to have them confirm that they really meant to do it. People click on things accidentally sometimes, or they're not thinking about what they're doing because they're talking to somebody who knows. I like to be able to ask them, really confirm, do you really want to close this down, no matter what they're doing? And the macro I have for this will do that, and it will do all the checking on whether or not they need to have something saved, and it will prompt them to save it first if they haven't done that before it gets out of here. Now the cool thing here is when you're in the switchboard, you're not in anything else. You don't have anything else open. You can open reports in other forms, but then they have the focus, and it won't go back to the switchboard. The focus cannot go back to the switchboard until they close those down. And again, out of those, there is no button to take down the application, to take down the system, but they could go over here up to the right and do it. Okay, but here, once they get back to here, there anything that should happen to be unsaved, it would prompt you. Actually, I don't think that it would even ever happen because the other ones wouldn't be able to close down if you haven't saved what their information is. So I don't think there's ever a situation where there's something to save at this level. So you won't ever be prompted, do you want to save this? But you will be prompted, do you really want to close the application? So that will happen. All right. And I think that's some of the things. Again, I used a lot of color here just to show you you can do that. You may want to have yours monochrome or whatever else. I've had students do everything black, white, gray tone, the whole thing. Yeah, that's fine. Just do a good job of that. Make it visually appealing, even in gray tone. But yeah, you could do things like that. So you see here that I've thrown little pictures on here. These are what they call Olay unbound objects. You'll find them up here. This is the bound object frame. We don't want that one because this isn't going bound to anything in our database, any data or anything like that. So I think it's this one. Actually, I think it's this one here that says image. That's the one that becomes the Olay unbound object. And all you do is click on that and you drop that in there like this, and it'll pop up and it'll look for a graphic then that you might want. So I wonder if I got a graphic here I could throw in here really quick. What do I have in here that I might be able to throw in here really quick? I remember our scuba equipment and all that. Yeah, so I could do something like this. Bam, and now you see it's in there. So, and you know what? Oh, I don't want to do that. Okay, just highlight it and delete it. That's all. It's gone. So that's all these are here. I just put those here. Now, keep in mind, again, I had a box here, and then I put a label on top of it. So there's a label control I threw in here. I put an image control in here, and I want to make sure those are on top. I showed you alignment before. Now I'll show you order. And again, let's say I wanted to move this to the back. All right, I could come up here and I could do an arrange and then say either bring the front or bring the back. And by the way, so send the back. And now see that just sent it to the back. Now that's behind this one. So if I sent this one to the back, now it's behind there too. Oh, I wanted those to be up front. Well, I can't get back to them now unless I move this, okay? But what I could do is I could highlight that one and say send that to the back, and it goes back. The canvas is the bottom of it, and you can't go behind it, all right? So think about all these things as if they're floating above the canvas, okay? And so then this label and this icon is actually floating above the rectangle that's floating above the canvas. So, things to keep in mind. This is yet another rectangle here that I put in there, and then I went in and I made the border really thick, 6, and I gave it a border color that's the same color as the background of that. And but its background is a different color. Its back color is a different color, and the border's solid and all that. I could have made it dot 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 if I want to. I don't know why you want to do that, but it made it blend. Made it blend into this as if I've got a tab now. It makes it look like a tab control. So, and the same thing here. These are images. These are icons. Um, and again, I'm sorry, these are command buttons, okay? And the command buttons can have pictures on them. Command buttons actually can have both pictures and images on them. In fact, let me do that on one of these. Let's go here on product demand, okay? And so you'll see the caption product demand right there. And then you see no picture caption. All right, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to have it, and I'm going to put the picture to the left. So that means to the left of the caption itself. All right, and yeah, the button's visible. Blah, blah, blah. Where's it? Okay, here's the picture now. So the picture type is embedded. In fact, I don't even know what it means to be linked and shared on the picture type there. I'm not going to worry about it because I always just make it part of the button. So we're going to embed it on the button, and then the picture, I'm going to pick it. And again, I'm going to go out there. Oh, it gives you some that you could. It's got some default ones in here. It's kind of nice. If you want to use any of these, you could use it one of those. Otherwise, you could do a browse, and it'll go out there, and you'll be able to bring your own in here. So I want to get that image of the tank again. You know what? It won't. You know why? This is a place where it needs to be bitmap. So I would have had to have a bitmap image, and then I could have put that there. So I can't do that. These ones that are in here are bitmap images. So I could go like this and I could say okay, and you'll see it put that there. Why did it put it at the top like that? I said to put it to the left. You know why? I bet it's because this isn't big enough for it. No? Oh, the caption's to the left. All right. I want the caption to the right. Why, it's way up there. That doesn't look too good. I don't like that at all. How did that happen? I wonder if there. What happens if I do general here? Nothing. Top. Probably. Now the caption's at the top. Again, this is the location of the caption. So if I do bottom, I wonder why that isn't lining up very well. Again, I'm off page here. I didn't try this beforehand, so I don't know for sure how these are supposed to work. Won't let me line it up either. But I will tell you, I have done this and it's worked out really well in the past. I mean, it might be that just the image is too small here. That might be it. In fact, I bet that is it. Or, or there's something I have to do about the caption on the button. Is there something about centering the? Well, we did it right here. I don't know. I guess I'd have to play with that a bit. But I will tell you, one of the things I usually do on buttons is I'll go out and design the label. I'll have an image maybe with what will look like a caption, some kind of label next to it. And maybe I'll do that out in PowerPoint or something, or some graphics package where I could build the look of what the button has in it. And I make sure the background is transparent on it, and then I save that as a bitmap, and then I bring that in. I just put that in as an image. I don't have a caption on it then. And reason I do that is several things. Okay, one, I remember that one of the problems with having an image and a caption together is the caption will butt up right next to the image when they are in line. I don't know why this one isn't. Okay, when they are in line, they'll butt up right against each other. And I actually have to go in there then and put space, 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 to make the caption come out a little bit more from the image or something like that. Well, then when later on, it's just, that's my preference. It's up to you. These are the things I want you to play. I say play around with things I want you to try to do when you're doing your project. It takes a little time, but it's a neat thing. You learn how to do it. And again, those are the things that I tend to spend the most time on. Is just making my application look good. Usually, after a while, you really learn how to build these things. You knock them out really fast, okay? And because you're fast, you usually have a little time that you go in and really polish things up and make things look good. I'm going to take that bitmap off. I don't want that. I decided. So to do that, I think I just have to go in and delete this thing that says bitmap. I think that's all I have to do. And yes, do you want to remove the picture from the control? Bam. Yes, I do. Okay. Now as I'm back to where I am. All right. So now we're ready to get into part B of the tutorial. I think I've shown you everything I wanted to show you about the switchboard. Oh, by the way, this is just the label. Some people actually ask me this a lot. How did you do that? Well, it's a box, and you can make it shadowed. Or the other thing is, you can just make another box that has a different thing, and you put it behind it, and stagger them a little bit. And I think that's what I might have done on this one. Let me see. No, I think I just shadowed this one, but you could do that too. I think I shadowed this one. That's why that's there. You see this gray line that goes around there? I just did that to kind of show that, corral them all in. I didn't really need to do that, but I just did that to show you that, again, that is yet another rectangle where I made the border thicker, made it gray, but made the interior of it, the background of it, I should say, transparent. So it's looking through the whole thing. And truthfully, I think that is actually all the, well, that, since it's transparent, it can be anywhere actually, as long as it's not over something, it should work. So, and again, this is just a title where I used an image in the title. I think actually so here's an example of one where I built this in PowerPoint. This nice logo here. This international. This is not a label. This is a photo, and you see it says Olay Unbound Object. I used this one out here, stretched it out, had that in there, made it so I knew it would fit this. I had the size so that I knew it would fit this area, and then on its properties, I just made an embedded type picture and all that kind of stuff to make it look good. And I think that's it on that one. Yeah. So anyway, again, play around with those things. Now, what we want to do here is, again, I'm going to go back to this in regular view. Okay, remember in part A, we built the button that opened up the supplier form. We built the button that opened up the supplier report. And we customize this dialog box here. Okay. And to be open for 7 seconds, it closes itself, or you could just hit this to close it. And again, this is all built in. And at some point, I'm going to actually show you how to do that. Probably in the more advanced class, I'll show you how to do that if you're really interested in how I did something like this. But that lets you either quit the application or stay in, and I decided to stay in. All right. We have a form, a report that brings up information about each customer. So it has the customer's name in the heading of the report. It tells me the total number of orders that customer made, and then it gives me a breakdown of all the products in each order that customer did. Okay, but the thing is, this is for all the customers. You see, as I go along, you might notice the second page was still was still Elizabeth Anderson's. The first was in the second because she has a lot of orders. In fact, that was interesting. It said she had 20 orders, but it sure doesn't show total orders for this customer. But why isn't that showing? Oh, you know what? I think that's supposed to say total products. I bet it does. Boy, I just noticed something I didn't notice before. I better fix that. But anyway, regardless, this will still work for this tutorial. And then a grand total for her stuff on her final page. So the second page was her final page. And I go on from that, you'll see it goes to another customer. Okay, and that customer's orders. But the one thing you won't see in here, by the way, you won't see anything for a customer who doesn't have an order. And I know there are some in here that don't have orders yet. because I said on no data don't show that. Okay, so we're only, oh, I'm sorry, that's not the reason, because we have a join in here. It's a left outer join on the It's not a left outer join. I'm only showing the ones where the customers actually had orders, so it's an inner join. If I wanted to show all customers regardless, I would have built a left join, shown a customer's page and no orders on it. So, but I just wanted to see the customers that actually had orders. So that's how this one's been built. All right, I'm going to close that. And by the way, it opens in print preview mode. So I'm going to close that down. What if I wanted to open it, have that report, but just for Elizabeth Anderson? Well, I could do that. I can actually build a combo, let's say a picker, a combo box that allows me to pick the person I want to generate a report for, and then generate that. You hit a button and it generates it. Now, I've already given you these. I've already created these controls for you, but what we're going to do is actually put the macros on them to make those things happen. And we're also going to populate the drop down with the name of the customers. Right now, well, I've already done that too, I guess. So, but I decided I'm actually going in this video, since I have a lot more time, I'm going to do that for you. I'm going to do it from scratch. So if you want to do it from scratch, you can see it. In the tutorial, again, if you watch the tutorial video, the one that's not narrated, these are already there, and I just go in and I show you how to, I point out how I actually populated the drop down and how I made the pick customer work. I didn't know. Yeah, there's nothing on here right now. Okay, I just did this one. So in the tutorial, I've already done these things for you because I figure we've already done them with things like find record and with other lookups. But I'm going to actually do the whole thing for you here. So I'm going to go in here right now, open it up, and I'm going to delete these and build them again. Well, I got again. There is order of okay, and even this, I'm going to do that for you again so you can see how I did it. All right. So first thing I want to do is I want to create that. I don't have to do it first. I mean, I could do it last if I wanted to, but I'm going to create that background sunken box just so you can see how I did it. So I'm going to go up here and click this rectangle. Now remember, when we came down before, we were working on tab controls and they would gray over. We're not working with a tab control here. So everything really is at the canvas level here. So, but it will also go on top of anything I stretch it over. So I want it on top of the green box. So just did that. Gives me an outline for it. You can't see it because very well. All right. So what I want to do right away is I want to go up here to format, and I want to fill it in with one of those light purple colors. I guess I'm using purple for my customers, and there it is. In fact, I may even go a little bit darker on the purple on this one. Let's see. Yeah, that's nice. Okay. And then again, I could leave that like that, and you'll see what it looks like. It looks kind of embossed and all that. Maybe I want it to make it look sunken or something. So I could say, I think it's the back style, right? Yeah. No, that's whether it's transparent or not. It's how do I say it? So, oh, here, right now it looks etched. See how it looks like they call that etched. Um, Go in here and hit the drop down, and you'll see sunken. That's what I want to do. You could do raised, you could do keep it flat, you could do chiseled, you could shadow it. If I shadow it, it looks like this then when I get done. And I think you can when you change the if you change the border color, the shadow color will change with it to be the same color. But I want it to be sunken, so I'm going to go in here and say sunken. All right. And again, you don't have to worry about tab order on this. Okay, I typically do is I just make all the controls tab stop no. These ones that are just for design, you don't have to worry about them at all because it can't tab into them anyway. All right, so let's go up here to the top again and do design, and I want to drop in a combo box control. All right, again, this is going to be unbounded now. It's not going to be bound to any records. I just click this one. That's the combo box control. And by the way, right now I have my use control wizards on. And is that right? It should be off. I wonder why that's like that. But let's drop that in. Yeah, see what happened? This is going to fire up and say, do you want to query and blah, 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 blah. We don't want to do this. Okay, now you could simply just cancel out. But see how it did this label, and it's going to do that anyway. Okay, and you want to delete that. All right. But if you didn't want that wizard, and I really suggest you don't, because sometimes the wizard could cause you problems, just go down here and turn that off. Okay, just click it, and it's off right now. Okay, it did that. If I hit down again, you'll see that it's not clicked. It's not clicked on. All right. So I could go in here and I get the combo box, and then I could drop that in here, and that's good. Now the combo box is something that can be tabbed into. So while it's highlighted like this, I'll come back and take care of the label in a second. I'm going to go down to the bottom, and where it says tab stop, I'm going to make it no. And again, I just double clicked, and because it's only could be yes or no, you just double click and it'll toggle between yes and no. So it was. Oh, I turned it off. Sorry about that. It's right here. I made tab stop no. You could also hit drop down, or you could just type no. It's up to you. Or you type N and it'll put no there. Microsoft tries to help you out as much as they can. And then I'd come over here, make sure this isn't highlighted now, and delete that label. We really don't need it. I'm going to pull the combo box control across because I know sometimes these things can get a little bit, the names can get big, and we're not just going to have the name in here. We're also going to have their customer code. I'm going to show you how to do that. So the other thing I want to do in here is put a command button then. And again, make sure your wizard is off now, because if you don't, it'll come up with some suggested things you could do with this button. And you click on one of those, it'll generate a macro, and you have a whole mess. And by the way, if that were to happen, the easiest thing to do, don't try to fix the macro or anything like that. Just go and delete the command button and do it again. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to create a command button. And the command button's right here, this one that has XXX. And you'll see it just says button on it. Click on that and bring it over here and then drop that on there. All right. And it says command. We'll give that a name here in a second. I'll make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, let's give that a name now. What the heck? Let's work on its look right now. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, and I like that how it's raised like that. If you want to keep it like that, you can. Um, I want to make it the same color as this one here, so I'm going to come over here and look in and see what color I used on it. Let's see. I want its back color right here. Okay, I'm going to wonder what that looks like when I open it up. What it is in there. Okay, so it's the second one down in the purple palette line. So I could either copy this and then paste it into its back color, or I could just go to its back color and pick that off by myself. I'll do that. Go in here, and I'm going to pick this one right here, the third one down. And now it's got that. And then for its caption, I want it to say pick. Is it pick customer? I think I gotta look and see what I can't remember what it said now. Let me look really quick. It says pick customer. Yes, it does. Okay, so I want this button in its caption to say, and right here where it says command 85, pick customer. Okay, yeah, it was kind of neat. It actually did wrap it for me because it's so small, and I wanted it to look like that anyway, so that's good. But I also wanted it to look like the text on all these, where it's blue and that font and all. Okay, I think the font in this is already the right one. Let's see, it should be like Calibri or something like that. Let's see, what's the font here? Yeah, Calibri. I'm going to just make sure. I'm going to copy that and then come back here. This you have to do is okay. It is Calibri and it's 11. This was 11. No, that's 14. But this is fine being 11. I don't mind it being a little bit smaller, so it fits on the button and all that. I mean, it's centered and all that. Okay. I want it to have the same color though, so I want its four. I think it's called the four color. Where is it at? Where does it say font? There's font name, font size. Press 4, press color. I always forget this one. The name, then how do I, oh, here it is, for color. Yeah, okay. Bam. In fact, if I look at that, I'm pretty sure it's on the, oh, it's this one right here on the color scale. So I'll just do that. I'll come over here and hit the four color. By the way, did you notice how I'm going back and forth and yet it's staying near, if not on, it's staying near the same property that was on the one before. So I could hit four color. Yet another thing that you could do to that Microsoft does for you to help you be a little more productive in things. And then that is bold. I could do the bold from here, but I just it's just as easy for me to go up here in format and make that a bold. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I like that pick. That's a good looking button. Did I make that raised? Yeah, I think I made that button raised too, didn't I? Let me look at it again in my in the tutorial. I think that one was raised. Yeah, it looks like it's a raised button like these ones right here. So when what I could have actually have done is just gone up here and do a paintbrush and click there and it would be there. Let's see that. Let's see the style of this. Let's see back snap, not this back style. Um, Again, where is that where it shows the whether it's raised or lowered? See, that's transparent or not. Yeah, you could have a button that actually is transparent. It would still put a thing around it, and if you want to pick up whatever was behind it, you could do that. I don't ever do that though. I don't can't remember if I've ever done it. Well, you know when you might want to do that if you don't want it to look like a button. You just want them to be able to click on text, maybe like it's a hyperlink. You could do that. You could have the back style be invisible and the or I should say transparent, and have the border transparent, but put a caption on there, and then if they click the caption, it'll work. If they click near the caption, it will work too. Get far enough away, it won't work because you're off the button. Then all these little tiny things you got to remember. Again, nothing major though. I wonder how I actually raised that. I have to look at the other ones, see how I did that. What's different here? Somehow that's raised compared to the other ones. Bold center. I'm sure it's staring me right in the face and I'm not remembering it. There is a way to raise that, and I'm not seeing it here. Isn't that interesting? You can make the button flat, or you can make it raised, or you can make it look like it's buried too. Like it's sunken, but it's not. I don't see that here anywhere. Huh? By the way, you may notice in my tutorial that I named this button. You don't really need to do that. Okay, we're not going to use. I did that because I thought I was going to have to refer to it, but then I realized later on I didn't have to. So you could leave it at Command 85. That's fine, but you do want to change the caption. Obviously, you don't want to keep that at Command 85. That is really interesting. I thought there'd be a property to do that, but I want to say there's something up here. If I go Design, that there's a way to do that to say make it look raised. I know you could do that because I did it here. Huh. You know what? I apologize. I thought I knew this right off the bat, and I just don't know for sure. There is a way to do it. So anyway, if you want to make it look raised, when it's oh, you know what? I bet it's its border that does that. Anyway, I think I come up here like say pick this one. I wanted to make it look like customer. I probably should have done this first. In fact, hit the paintbrush. See how I hit the paintbrush here, and you get the paintbrush by the way from several places. It's up here too. This and it's already selected here because I selected in the other place. And then come down here, click that, and see how it did that. See how it made it look raised. That's interesting. I wonder what there is. I don't see a property here that does that. I can't figure out where that would have done that. Huh. Interesting. Oh well. Anyway, but it did what I wanted to do. Now, unfortunately, it did oversight. It gave me exactly the same properties here. So I'm going to go back here, hit it again, and make the font a little bit smaller. It was 11 before, I think. So I'm going to make it 11. That seemed to fit pretty good. Yeah, that's not bad. Even that's a little bit too big, I think. I might make that 10. Now, see, now Doesn't want to wrap though. So if I wanted to wrap, I could come in a little bit, I think. Yeah, like that. That's better. That looks good. But again, I don't have to. I can make it bigger. I can make the button bigger, make the text bigger. It's up to you. You do what you want to do on that. Okay. I'm gonna close this up a little bit here. I don't like to have them too far apart because I want to give them a visual that these two kind of work together. That's one of the reasons why I put the box around them too. They work together as a team. Okay. And now we're gonna make that happen. We're gonna make them work together as a team. So I'm gonna save it right now. Now, I am going to work off of some of the pages that are in the tutorial. Again, some of these, you've got this first part done for you. I've actually built the combo box, but I'm going to do it again for you here so that when you do it on your own, you can refer to this video, how I did it this time. But truthfully, you can see here by reading about it. You could look at the one I just gave you. You're going to have other examples and you're going to do this on your assignment too, something like this. So you will learn how to do this. What I need to do on that combo box is there's several properties that we're going to have to set to do this. They are the same kind of things that we had to do when we did uh, uh, row sources for lookup tables. Those same properties, we're going to have to do that again here because that's kind of what we're doing. We're making a lookup here, but this is a lookup that's not bound to anything. When you pick its value, that value only becomes the value of this control. It's not being stored in any table in the database. And that's fine. That's what we want. So just like on the other ones, what we want to do is we want to find the row source property, which is down a bit. You have to go down a little bit, and you'll see. Usually, you know you're there when you see row source type table query, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to build a query. So again, it's not the drop down here that would show any queries or tables or anything. We don't want that. Okay, what we want to do is hit the ellipse, the triple dot, and we open up the query builder. Now, what we want to do is we want to bring back we want to have in here the names of each of the customers in alphabetical order, A to Z. Okay, that's what we want the drop down to show first. And then we want to show with it a customer ID, which is a formatted value of the primary key. I know all semester I've been saying the primary key means nothing except a link to help you to establish a relationship. But if you really want to, if that does have some kind of meaning, or you want it to have meaning, you could make it have meaning. It could be useful. And again, I mentioned this in other videos. You know, sometimes I will use that to create a code for the customer, or for the supplier, or for the product, or for the order. In fact, in this one, I do it for all of those. Okay, I got to decide how many digits I want to have. So on this one, what I want to have is I want the customer ID to be start with the letter C to indicate customer, and then 8 digits. And again, I don't those 8 digits don't mean anything except that it's the primary key of the record. Okay. Now again, when we look at the primary keys that are generated when we go in the table, we don't see them as 8 digits or whatever, but you know what? You could actually form. In fact, I think on one of the homework assignments, I didn't realize I had done that, and some of the students noticed that. They said, "How come the primary keys coming up with a lot of leading zeros on this, and it didn't do that on the other one?" It's because and it's in the format of the property. I had actually done that. Okay. And even if I had done that here, if I had formatted the property on the table for that, I still would probably want to do it here too, okay? So we're going to use a function that will allow me to format the primary key value to make it C with 8 digits after it, right? So I want to pull from the customer table. I'm going to add that to it. Close that up. I always want to have the first thing, the record identifier. Why? Because that is the value that the control takes on once the associated alias value, which is the next thing we're going to build, is picked from that list. That's what it becomes. And we are going to refer to this control. In fact, I forgot to do that. I'm going to do that as soon as I get out of here. But let's let's do this first, and I could go back and I could name the controls so that we do have a way to refer to it. All right. Then I want the customer name. Okay, that's going to be part of a string, but we may as well just drop it in there to start out with. That's fine. Okay. And then I want to put them in alphabetical order by the customer name. Okay, now the truth is, I could do that right here. I could do ascending, but since I'm going to build an expression here, I usually, if I'm really basing it on one particular field, I usually like to just do this. Okay, this is just a little tip. Okay, reason is, even though access is very good, I could just, after we have this, because when we have this built, we'll have the customer name, and then we'll have the code in brackets and square brackets. If I do alphabetical order, it is going alphabetized on the customer name. If I alphabetize this expression field, this derived field, I'm sorry. However, if I want to use this query in other software packages, sometimes that doesn't work. So I always do this. I always go over here and say, do it on that ascending, but don't show it. Okay, we don't need that field, but we want to use it as part of this query to sort the records ascending on the customer name. All right, I'm going to save it right now, just so I don't lose anything I've done. All right, and now I'm going to actually build the expression in this field. So again, what I could do here is I could do a zoom. If I know the syntax, go ahead and do it. But I always like to use build. All right. Now, I have given you the syntax for this whole thing. I noticed, and I've been doing this all semester, I've been giving you the syntax for the things that are a little bit more involved in typing. All right. That you can just cut and paste, and yeah, some of you even had trouble doing that. And hopefully we're working through all those issues. But at some point you are going to have to do this for yourself, so you may as well try it on your own. Go to the build and build something like this. All right, but again, if you do this for this example anyway, if you do it and it doesn't work out, then you can go back to the tutorial on this step right here, and you see it's right here, customer colon blah 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 blah, all the way out to here until you get to the black comma. You want to copy that and then paste that in here. Okay, but be careful again, because you do have a line break here. Make sure you're not accidentally getting something you're not seeing in there and it's not accepting it. If it does do that, you may have to go back, at least delete that part of it and type it out yourself. All right. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to reproduce this for you. So I'm going to come down here so I can see it a little bit better. Okay, and I'm pretty sure that's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So why 8? Yeah, think about how many customers do you think you might ultimately have, in all your history, okay? Okay, 6 would be, up to 999,000. So eight's going to be up to 99 million. I would have 99, you know, I doubt the international marketplace will ever have 99 million customers, okay? I mean, I could have made it 10. I could have made it 20, but, I'm going to make it 8. I wouldn't make it 4 though, because then I do fill it up. Now I got an issue. Now I'm going to have to come. I will have no other choice but to come in here and open up my application, put another 0 or 2 in here, and then have to recompile the whole thing. So that's why be kind of conscious of what you want here, okay? So this isn't expanded all the way. Yeah, it is. That is the whole expression, okay? So I'm going to do this for you, and I'll talk to it through it as I do it. So, and I'm going to take this out, even though I put it in there originally. You always start out an expression with its caption, its label. So, customer is what I want the caption to be, and then I'm going to put colon. Okay, that's just part of the syntax. Space. And now what I want to have first. What I want first is the name of the customer. And you notice it's here, right here already. Why was it here? Because I had already dropped that in there already. All right. This is actually the parameters of this query. Now I know I just deleted that here, but it's still back here. So I could go here and just double click. And that's kind of nice because it puts the square brackets around it. But be careful of this. It always sometimes puts this XPR on there, and you don't want that. You may have to maintain a single space between it. I think if you put 2, it wouldn't hurt you. But don't close that up completely. Don't have colon in that right next to it. Have that little space between the colon and the square bracket for the name. Okay, that's the customer name. I wanted to say customer name space square bracket and then the C format blah blah blah. You know the with the eight balls. That's a term we say it when we mean zeros. 80. I'm going to use 80. Zero means a digit. Okay, but the digit is not required. So this is one of the formatting characters that we have from format. And then at the end of that, I want to tack on a closing square bracket. So this is this is a string operation now. We're becoming a string operation. So we've got the name of the customer, and I use colon to indicate I'm about to concatenate more string to it. And I'm going to use, I think I use double quotes. Now you can use double or single, but just be careful that you actually close it out with a double or single. Why do they give you both? Is because you may actually want to show a quote sign in your string. And that way, so let's say I wanted to show a single quote, I could put double quotes around a single quote and the single quote would appear. Conversely, if I wanted to show a double quote, I could put a single quote around the double quotes and the double quote would appear. I don't want quotes, so it doesn't matter if I use double or single here. But I do want a space. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a space in there. And now I'm going to start having the format itself for what I want. So I want to look at that again so I remember what it is. Oops, I went to the wrong application. Sorry about that. I'm going to have to close this down now. Hope it doesn't take too long to open up. Yeah, well, okay. Let me just close that in the background. Sorry about that. Okay. Oh, space, square bracket, and then so double quote, space, square bracket, and then quote. And now another semicolon, because now I'm going to concatenate to that the results of a function. And the function is named format. And like any other function, you want to put it in the regular parentheses. Yeah. And then I want to, the parts of this now are the field that I'm going to use. Okay, so the value that comes back from the field I want to use. And then its format, what's called its format string. And you might, yeah, okay, it's format string. So I want to do this on the primary key field, and it's in here already. So I can just double click that and it put it in there, and it didn't put that little expression thing on there. Okay, so that's the first parameter of that function. And now the second parameter of that function is the actual format I want to use. And what does that look like? That is, what I do is in double quotes, or again, it could have been single quotes, I think, but I'm going to do double quotes because it's not an issue here. Double quotes, I'm going to use a backslash first, which means make it uppercase. Okay, now I don't truthfully, I don't think I really even, no, I'm sorry, that isn't what that means. The backslash means make the next character the literal character. I want to have a literal C in there. Okay, all these all these zeros represent the fact that I want to have a digit. Okay, not, it can't be an A. It can't. It's going to be a digit. It's going to be a number between 0 and 9. All right, but I wanted to start with a C. I can't just put C in there because it could be a code itself or something. So I want to say I want to have a literal C there. So to make something to indicate that a value in this format is literal, I make it backslash and then that literal value. So I'm going to make this double quotes backslash C, and now again 8 digits, which means that if she's customer 132, she'll have those three, but it'll have five leading zeros. Okay, so 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. There's my 8 digits. Again, if I want to make it 10, I could do 10. Whatever. Okay. Um, and then double quotes to close it out. And then a parenthesis, the closing parenthesis to close out the function. So now that should bring back uh, the customer's primary key value as a code that's C with 8 digits after it, right? But we're not done yet, right? We had a square bracket at the front of it, so we need to have a square bracket at the end. This one, we don't want to have a space. We want it to be right up against the last digit. So type a space, an ampersand, another space, and I always do those spaces between the ampersand to make it readable. I don't know if it's a problem if you actually had it butted up against. It might be. So I would recommend you do that. Yeah, you always put around your concatenation character, the ampersand sign, the and sign. I would always have spaces before and after it. And now I want to have a closing square bracket. And I know this is maybe I'm this is nauseating here, the whole thing, but I just want to make sure you really understand what's going on this. All right, so that should do it now. I'm going to say okay, and now we've got that in there, and it's just fine. Again, I probably could have just said ascending here if I wanted to, but I'm going to do this. All right, so I'm going to hit that, save it, and now I'm going to run that so I can make sure it really is going. This is what I would get back then when I do this. All right, I'm going to bring back this value, and now why did that come back as C? You know what? I did format it over in the table. I've used that same format over the table. Could I have then just said that here? Probably. You know, I could. In other words, I could have probably just said aught star dash record identifier, and it would have come back with this correct. You know, but let's. This is good to demonstrate what it is. Okay. Yeah, this is showing up here because I did the same thing over in the table. I'm almost positive. Wonder if I could go there. Well, let's do that later on. We'll get there in a second. But remember, I do need this field because that's what's going to be bound there is the primary key value. It's not going to have a C on there and all that. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. All right. But that's how that came out. Now, one thing some people will ask me, could I add something else in here? Did I have to use a square? Yeah, whatever you want. You want to use curly brackets if you want to use a divider, dividing line key into it. If you want to put several other spaces, you could. Another thing that will come up is there a way that I could have these all look like they're in a column together, even though they're in the same column as the name? You know what? Yeah, there actually is a way to what they call pad the customer. So maybe I say, let's always start this out 50 characters out there or something like that. But right now I think my customer names over in the database are 255 characters, and they could get that long. I mean, maybe they're not, but they're like 100 and something. I probably wouldn't have pad it at least, but then you could have somebody with a short name and then their customer ID is way over here. There is another way to do this, and I may show that in a second here. But another way that you can actually show when you hit the drop down, instead of just showing this, you can show two columns and have those all line up if you want to. But I like this. I'm going to do it this way for mine. Again, if I get a second, I'll show you how to do it the other way. So I'm going to close that down, go back. I'm happy. It put the select query in there for me, so it's already set, ready to do this. But there's some other things I have to set here. Okay. And again, these are in the tutorial. I kind of got this after setting the parameters. You can do either one first, but I would recommend maybe doing the query first and then set the parameters. I probably should change this around. So I'm going to go, first off, I'm going to go to the very top because, like I said, I do need to give this a name. And the name I give it is CBO, that's the prefix for a combo box control, pick customer. So CBO, and since these are, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put a space there. CBO, no space in here now. No space in the name. Never put a space in the name. Pick, P-I-C-K, and then customer, K-U-S-T-O-M-E-R. All right. And you might notice each of the word I put in uppercase. And that way I can see the prefix really easy before it. And when I see it in list, I'll be able to pick it out really easy too. So that's one thing I need to put in here. Another thing I need to put in here is the column count. Now we had 3 columns in that we used three columns in the query, but one column wasn't shown. It was just there to do the sorting. We only want to show, I say show, we only want to work with the primary key value and then the alias value, which was the expression, the derived field. So I've got two. I've got two columns in my column count. And then I want the column lists. Now again, we don't want to show the um, primary key field. It does nothing for us. All right. Yeah, I know on this one it actually does show a customer thing, and we could have shown it if we wanted to. That would have been fine. If we, that would be another way to do this in this particular situation. But let's keep doing this like we've been doing it all along. Okay, where we say we're not going to show the first field. We're just going to show the alias field. So I'm making the first field 0 in length and the alias field 5 in length. And then the other thing I want to do is come down to the list width here where it says auto. And again, you could leave it as auto, but I've noticed sometimes that when you do that and the list gets long, we're going to have the list rows. We could have 16 customers in here. Right now, we don't even have that many that would show up in the report. But someday, like I said, I'm allowed 99 million in here. What if I need it would put a scroll bar on it, and then it would actually bring it in about a quarter of an inch. I noticed. So I always do this. I always say, what is the total of all my column lists? And I say 5.25. All right, I'm 5.25. I have five altogether on my column list, so I'm going to make it 5.25. Give it a little bit of a quarter inch more. And then that's all for at the top. I need to go back down where the query was at the bottom, near the middle here, and make sure that the bound column really is one. And that is. And all the other ones that are about the query, leave it as it is. So we're good. We're good to go on this right now. Something, again, people ask me is, well, how come we got the query here and it's got all this information about the query, but then you got this information in the query way up here at the top? I don't know. I don't know why Microsoft did that. I don't know if they were thinking, well, maybe this may not have a query, it may just be a value list. But I think even then, I would have probably, I would have kept it down here, because it's down here where you would say if it was a value list or not, too, I think. Yep, see? So why did they separate those? I have no idea. But it is as it is, so we have to work with it that way. But anyway, those are the properties that you need to set to make this work. Let's see if that worked. Let's save the thing. Let's go out to Form View. Let's go to that deal and hit the drop down. And yeah, and you might notice it wasn't selected. Like I said, no, there are nothing here that has a tab stop on, so nothing was selected. I actually had a cursor into there, and then I hit the drop down, and they're there, and I could select them, Elizabeth Anderson, things like that, and then once I select it, that becomes the value of that CBO control. Well, that's great, but I still need to open the thing. So I need to open up that report just for Elizabeth Anderson. So, and by the way, you don't have to undo her here because when we go to design, come back, you'll see she won't be there. We didn't. Again, that's not being stored anywhere. And then it's kind of cool too that we're seeing that with the customer ID. Maybe what I should have done really is put two spaces there. Not have it as close there. So I could do that. I could go back and fix that up. Again, these are visual things that you could go out and play around with. In fact, I could even do it right from here since I'm seeing the whole thing. Let me close this down a bit so I do see the whole thing. And I could come in here and put another space here. Oh, hit the wrong key. Wrong space here. Yeah, or another space here. And then we got that. And then if I go back and look at that, yeah, that's how you design. You go back and forth. Oh, yeah, that does look a little bit better. I like that. So, again, there is an alternate. I'll show you the alternate way after I get the whole thing built about how I could have done this. Okay, but I kind of like this. This is good enough. Most of the time that would be good for me. Some people say, well, what if we remember the customer ID? And now, they're not in order. They may not be in order. And you're right, they may not be. You may notice these are in order right now. That's only because when I first built this, I happened to put these guys in an alphabetical order. I think there might be some in here that aren't. Yeah, see here, you went from Robin to So to test guy, and these aren't in order. So what if I knew test guys? How do I find that? Well, especially when I get millions of these things. Oh, it ain't gonna be easy. And I'll tell you the truth. This is not the way I would do this if I had millions of these. I would figure out a way to narrow it down even more to something that's manageable, something that got me in the ballpark of them. So maybe I know their last name started with R. I could do that. Oh, and by the way, I should show you that. You know, I could do that. I could say R, and it'll find the first one that starts with R and put that one in here. It completes it for it. So that is a way to get to into the ballpark. Maybe I know their name started with RO. I could do RO, and now it'll take me to the first one that has RO. So if this list got long with a lot of names that started out with the first few letters that are similar, I could do that. We have that at Spirit. Ours works like that. When we look up people that work for the company, I could start typing their name, and after a few letters, then I'm right on them. Okay, and it gives me all the information about them then. But now I want them to be able to pick this and then pick customer, and it opens it up. So for that particular person. So let's go out and do that. Okay, I'm going to go to pick customer now, and I'm going to go down to its on click property. We're going to create a macro to do this. On click, and I'm going to hit the dot 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 and it's always on macro builder by default. Just say OK. And again, always turn on both the action catalog and show all actions. It helps me, I find, because there are some in here that I use, believe it or not, especially set value. I use that quite a bit. So now we're going to make basically something that opens up that form just like we did before, but we're going to add open it filtered on whoever was picked in that combo box. So I'm sorry, I said open form. I meant open report. So let's open that same report. So again, open report, and it's right here. And it knows all the reports. We want to open up the report for the customer orders. Now remember last time when we did this, and that's all we did, and we were done, and it opened up for all the customers. But we want to open it up for whoever's been picked on that combo box that we just built. And we named that CBO blah blah blah. So we have this thing here that's called filter. Sometimes that works, but you actually have to create a filter, usually that is an object that will sit on the navigation pane, and it isn't compiled. Well, yeah, it's compiled, but people could get to it through the back door and basically steal it. I don't think they can modify it. But if you just really want your thing to be tight, don't use the filter name. Use the where condition. We're going to open this report where the record we're looking for is the record for the person that we picked in that combo box. That's my pseudo code way of describing what we're about to do. So again, I give you how to do that. I give you what the expression for this is too. It's in step 2. Oh, and I forgot that we want to open it up in print preview. I forgot about that. I'm glad I saw that. I want to open it up print preview just like we were doing on the full report. And I wanted to have this expression right here. And I give you it here again if you want to copy it in. In fact, I think I'll just do that here. Well, no, I'll build it for you, okay? Because I remember on one of these, there's a little bit of a tweak that you have to make versus what the expression builder does. So I want to find TBL customer. What this is saying, I'm going to look where in the table customer, TBL customer, the subject table customer, it's where its ID, its record identifier is equal to what this what the control in the switchboard that has the drop down list is equal to. So this is going to be equal to whatever I pick. So if it's Elizabeth Anderson, it would equal to 1. And I want to search for the record with the student saying, find it where the record in this table has 1 for its primary key value. That's what this is doing. All right. So I want to make equal to, I just want to make sure I get the syntax here right. Table and then forms switchboard. Okay. So let's go in here. And they give you the equal already. You don't have to type the equal. Let's open up the expression builder. And I want to say table. Now you'll see it's not listed here, but you can get to all the objects in this file by hitting. Uh, you'll see the file name ACCDB. That's what I'm working in right now. Just hit this expander, and now you'll see tables, queries. We're working with a table. We want the table that we're going to search through, and the table. I click that. Now I see all the tables. I'm looking at table customer. Click on that. Now I got all the fields for that, and it's the one that's at the top. It's my primary key. You don't hit this value thing over here. You hit this. Double click on that, and it just put that in there. That's what I want. I want where that one is equal to the value of that control. That control is on the form I'm in already. All right, which is FSW. I could probably go on that, I think. Yep. And go down to the bottom, I think. But yeah, because I put it in there near the end. CBO customer. Again, none of these. Just double click on this because it knows to do value. Now, see what happened? It didn't put the full expression in here. And I don't know why that happens. Microsoft's got a little bit of a problem with that. So I think the way I fix that, I'm going to go in here. Well, I tell you how to do it. I tell you what it needs. Go and get the full reference. This is called getting the full reference. Go down the forms now out of that file that we expanded. And I usually do all forms. You could do loaded because that is loaded right now. The application, but it's down here. It's just easy to find it. The switchboard form, and then on that CBO pick customer. If I did this right, no, it still didn't put it in there. Doggone it. I wonder why not. All right. Well, I'm going to tell you right now. I know this likely won't work. Wonder why that did that. I want to try it the other way. Let me not get out of here. I want to try it. You know what? I may have actually put that in the tutorial that won't do that. Yeah, see, that's why I gave you that. I wanted to make sure you know that you actually have to type this in. To me, this is an error in Access. I don't know why it doesn't give you the full reference. The reason it's not is because you've got the thing open already, and it figures since it's going to be, it's just referring to itself. But I notice it doesn't work. Um, I'm going to let's try all loaded forms. See, because it's here loaded. Did it do it here? No, it's still the. I'm going to try this. I want to just leave it at that. Okay, we're going to put it in here. We may have to come back here and modify it. Okay, I'm going to save it, close it, and I want to go try this. So I'm going to go up here. I may as well save the form too. Go up to the form. I'm going to pick Elizabeth Anderson. Now I'm going to say pick customer. See, it didn't like that. And we do know we named that. I better go make sure I really named that pick customer. I'm going to say cancel. Um, yeah, I don't know why that happens. I apologize for that. No, I don't because it's not my fault. It's Microsoft's fault. Let's go. I just want first off, I want to make sure I really did name that correctly because I would get an error if that was named correctly. CBO pick customer. Yes, that's correct. All right, let's go back here. I just opened up the it just went from that one's property sheet to this one's property sheet. And I'm going to go down here to the embedded macro and open it up, the on-click embedded macro. And I'm going to add that syntax here. I know it needs to be form Yeah, form, and then I need to name the form too. That indicates it's a form that you want to look in. Forms. Oh, interesting. Forms. Oh, and it's got square brackets around it too. Forms. Yeah, see, this is hard for me sometimes too. Okay, and it's not something I always remember. I have to go back and refer to. That's why I give you all this information so that you've got this. Forms exclamation point, and then the name of the form exclamation point. Okay, so I went oh, forms exclamation point. It's not in the brackets, square brackets, and it's F. Oh, and see, this helps me out a little bit. I get what forms there are. FSW. I could do this, and that's nice. It put it in there for me. But it also has an exclamation point here. Okay, so the syntax you got to be absolutely right. You can't, make sure your brackets are in the right place, that you got your exclamation points in the right place, that this is plural. It's probably case sensitive would be my guess. So get it exactly right, and then let's close it up and save the form and go over and try it again. And Elizabeth Anderson, and open it up, and there it is. Elizabeth Anderson's there. Is anybody else? I could get to her second page. I go to the third. Nope. There is no third page. It's just Elizabeth Anderson. Success. We've got a report. We basically filtered that report to only have the information for Elizabeth Anderson in it. Terrific. But we're not done. Actually, before we do that, I want to go back there. And again, I want to show you. I gave you the syntax for that particular one, and you could have just as easily used that. I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do that so you can see how you can do it. It's right here on step 2. Sometimes it's easier for me to go to the end and then back, I noticed on this, because you want to get this exactly, guys. Okay, so Control C, and then I could go in here and do a Control V. See what it does sometimes. I warned you about that because there was a carriage control line break. It sometimes will not pick up the whole thing. Sometimes when it does, it wipes out that dash thinking it's a hyphen and that it needed to pick up other things. Again, that's Microsoft fault, but not in Access. It's actually in Windows that's a problem. Control C, and I'm going to go back here now. I took the last part of that. I'm going to do Control V. And when that puts that in there, make sure it didn't accidentally put a space between that. Again, it's got to be exactly right or this won't work. And I'm going to close that down. And I'm going to go back up here. And I'm going to do Elizabeth Ann. I'll do one of the other guys. I think Catherine Montoni's got something in there. Myconi, and then pick customer. Yeah, you see now I've got her information. So that's really nice. But let's go back. Let's pick somebody else. Uh, let's go in here and pick, who's the guy who doesn't have anything? I think it's George Lee that doesn't have anything. George Lee. I pick him. It opens up. Look, there's nothing there for him. Okay. Now, even though we'll have a macro that says on no data and all that, um, am I getting ahead of myself? Yes, I am. I got ahead of myself. I'm sorry. Let me go back. But we will do that one in a second. Right now, I could wipe this out, right? I can, bam, go back. Or when I first opened up the form, it was null, right? Nothing's to keep me from hitting pick customer. Now, some students will get very inventive and say, you know what I'll do is I'll make this invisible and not make it visible until they pick somebody. Yeah, but then and then they'll have to monitor it though. It says whenever it's set back to null, and that's the after update thing to make it invisible again. And if you want to do all that, you're welcome to. But this is just as easy. Okay, all right. We can monitor to see was that null. In other words, if I hit pick customer right now, I'm gonna get just a blank thing. Bam, there's nothing in there. All right. Maybe I want to say, hey, you need to pick a customer first. Let's do that because it's actually not hard to do. Let's go back again on pick customers on click property, open up the macro, and let's add to this macro. We want to have a conditional that before it that says basically only open this report if the value on that was not null to begin with when this thing was clicked, when the button was clicked. So I've given you the code for that, and it's in step 3. And what we're going to do is we're going to build an if statement, just like you did when you did C and all that, that will basically have a message box open if the value in that was null when they click on the button. If the value in the combo box was null when they click on the button, we want to be able to say you must click customer first. And so a little box will pop up there and it'll say that. They close the box out. We want it to go back to the combo box control because remember, when they last clicked, they're on the command button. And that's when they come back, that's where they'll still be. We want to put it back in that combo box control just so that they're ready to pick it again, a value. All right. So this is the code to do it. I'm going to have this if that's going to test whether or not that combo box actually has a value in it. All right. Meaning that something was picked from it. Otherwise, it's null. And if it is null, that's what it is. If it is null, that combo box, we're going to put it what's called a message box up there that says you must pick a customer from the list. It'll actually beep when it pops up. It'll come up with a warning symbol on it, and it'll have a little title on its little window that says "pick." It's the pick customer warning. And then immediately after that, it'll move my cursor into the control. This go to control command. We'll move it into control CBO pick customer. And then it'll stop the macro. All right. It doesn't need to do anything more at that point. We're done. Okay. We don't want it to open the report. But if this was false, in other words, if there was a value in there, then this if wouldn't execute and it would just go and open the report. Pretty cool, huh? And so let's build that. So I went is null on the form pick customer and all that. And the cool thing about this right now is I've got this syntax right here for the form pick customer right down here. I can just copy it and put it up there. All right. So let's go up here and I want to do now. I've got report at the top. It's okay. We can move things around. So I'm going to do the if now. All right, and I've got that if statement here, and I want to move it before the report. You see this little X, while it's highlighted, the if, I could hit this arrow, and it puts it now before the last command, the command that's before it. So it's going to put above report. All right, so I'm going to say again, I want to look at it one more time. Is null, okay. So is null. Remember how we did is not null and all that? Okay, there's the equivalent function is null. And you know what? I could have used that for when I was over doing required fields where we said is not null. I could have said not space is null function with like that, and it would have done the same thing. But over in the properties of tables, it's a lot better, in my opinion, to use the English-like expressions. It's not as good to use them here because I think some of them will work, but not all of them, and some of them will work on some macro commands and not all of them. So use functions when you're in a macro command. It's more like writing a little program. Okay, so we're going to is null, and then what I want is null is this. Now I could go in and use the builder and build all that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to come down here and I'm going to copy that. I'm looking if this is null. So I'm going to do highlighted just that part of the reference, or highlight the reference for the combo box, the full reference. Okay, go back up here to is null and then put that in there. And then a parenthesis to close it out. So that's the condition. So you see if, and it put a then in there for me. And it's got an end if here too. And by the way, there you could do an else. You can add an else. If it says this you want to do something, or else you want to do something else, you could do that. You could do an else. You can even do an if, what's called an if else. I tend to use else's a lot. I don't like embedding my if statements. If I am, sometimes that means I've done something wrong as far as structure goes. Another little clue, but it could happen. Okay, there could be situations where you'd have an if that has another if in it. And I think I told you before, in the old days, early days of Access, I used to have macros that had a lot of commands in them. It's kind of rare for me to have a lot of commands in a macro these days because relationships and property values and other constraints have really taken care of a lot of the conditional things and conditional formats have taken care of and derived fields and derived controls. All those things have added other ways to do logic in a database. We'll talk about logic in lesson 8, which is kind of an extra lesson I throw in after your projects. But I'll talk about logic even in databases then. But since we got so many different ways to do logics, the need to do if statements are starting to become minimal really in Access. So anyway, let's go in here and do message box. I love this one. Now, I do want to warn you, there is also a function called message box. And actually, the message box function is what I used on the icon, on the button that closes the application and prompts you, do you really want to close this? All right. We don't need to ask them a question or have them answer a question here. We just are going to give them a warning, basically, that they need to have a customer picked. All right, we're not asking them yes or no or anything like that. We're telling them, okay. So it's going to pop up, and then it's going to and then they're going to close it down and go back there. So the messages, and you can phrase this however you want to phrase it. I phrased it: you must first pick a customer from the list. When I always have the students say, you're not very polite in your messages. Oh, please select let's do it that way. Please select a customer from you could call it drop down list, pick list, whatever, from the list. Okay. You can make it urge, like that if you want to just say it like that. You don't even need a punctuation. Beep. I don't have to have a beep. I can say no if you think it's too rude to beep at a guy. I like to get their attention though, so I usually leave beep yes. And the type. Now you're going to get several types of messages. Okay. I would say typically they would be this warning with the exclamation point, meaning that I'm just telling you there's something you need to be aware of. And okay, it's not necessarily urgent or critical, but yeah, it's something. You don't have to put anything on here. You could just let the message come up, okay? Critical would usually mean there's a problem, okay? And I would think if there was a problem, that usually a decision needs to be made. So you probably wouldn't even use the message box for this. But you have the option. If you do critical, you'll get I think an icon that's a big red X that will come up on the screen in the message. And with warning, it'll just come up with I think a yellow exclamation point. And with warning with a question mark, it will come up with a question mark. I think that's either orange or yellow. I can't remember because I never use it, because with a question mark seems to me to say you have to make a decision here. And again, you can't make a decision in this particular message box. You have to use the functional message box to do it. And again, those of you who come to the advanced class, I'm going to show you how I actually did that. How we have a message where they have to make an indication about what they want to do. And then there's when it's just information where it comes up with a green eye or something like that on the dialog box. And basically it just means that I just wanted to tell you something. Okay. But here I'm kind of telling them, you got to do something here. I'm not just telling you, giving you information about this. I'm actually directing you to do something. Okay. So at the same time, there's no decision that needs to be made. You just got to do this. Okay. From a flow perspective. So I'm going to say warning. And then these little dialogues that pop up, they have a little bar at the top of them. You don't have to put anything on there if you don't want to, but I often do name them here with give them a title, because say I'm a help desk for this application and somebody's using it, they're saying this box pops up and it says to do that. Well, if I know what I'm doing, I probably know what they're talking about. But I may have, maybe I don't. Maybe this is one of thousands of applications I have to keep track of. And this is one where there isn't a problem very often. A lot of companies, what they'll do is they will actually label the parts of their programs so people could say, I'm on this screen. They may give it a code even. And you could do that here if you want in the title. If you want a code that says screen 002, you could do that, okay? I usually just go in here and I make it name it what it's accomplishing. So I'm going to call this the pick customer warning. Pick customer warning. Now, again, remember, the subject of this is customer. All right. If you were doing this same kind of thing, if you had say you had, back when we did the contacts one, you'd want it to say pick contact warning. You'd want to say please select a contact from the list. You'd want the CBO to be CBO pick contact, not customer. You'd want the reports would be named RPT contact orders or whatever, or contacts, whatever it is. Okay, the table would be TBL contacts. Okay, I have noticed that some of you, especially the ones who are lazy, tend to just want to cut and paste a lot. And a lot of times that's what's getting you in trouble because you're not engaging your brain. You don't realize that you're using something that is actually a literal reference to something, okay, to a subject or whatever, and you're using a subject that's actually in a different database, okay? Just be smart. Read all this stuff. Think about what it's saying. Think about what you're working on, and you won't have those troubles. Again, that is not directed at the lion's share of the people in this class. Most people get that, okay? And I'll tell you the truth, if at this point you don't get that, I don't know how you're going to get through the rest of it. Anyway, let's get through this, okay? So we got the message box, and that's it. That's all I wanted in the if statement. No, it isn't. I'm sorry. There's one more thing. I need to move the cursor now, right? If they after the message box closes down, or even before it does, that's the other thing. Some people sometimes ask me, "What's the order of things here?" Well, yeah, there is a flow order here of the logic, okay? But message box pops up there. Anything else in this if statement will continue to run. It's not like it's waiting for the message box to close, all right? Now, in this case, we don't care, but sometimes if it does, you may have to do what's called an echo on and an echo off, okay? Which would mean that a thing can't happen until another thing has already happened. It's usually not that big. It doesn't happen very often. I haven't had it happen to me in years. It happened a lot in the early days of Access. And they still have it built in, but I think they have it mainly built in for old programs. But just be careful that sometimes it's not where a thing needs to be responded to. That doesn't mean that the macro is necessarily waiting. It could have gone on and executed other commands. So the command we want to also execute within that if statement is one that causes the cursor to go to that control. So I want to go to the control, and this is an interesting one. Now you might notice sometimes when I got the control, I have to do the full formal reference. Other times I just have to have the reference because it knows it's on that object. I just have to have the reference to the object. And then some cases, all I have to do is have the name of the object. And that's what happens here on Go to Control. All they're looking for here is the object name. If I try to put form, FSW, CBO, pick like that in here, right now it wouldn't work, okay? All it wants is CBO pick customer. And in fact, if I go in here and do CBO, start typing it, you'll see it pops up. That's the one. That's the CB it knows about. So I can just go and double click that, and it's in there now. Okay, but it's not in the right place in this. It needs to go be in that if statement within the if and the end if. So again, all I have to do is highlight that and hit the up arrow. Now you'll see it'll be before report, and now when I hit the up arrow again, it'll be before the end if. If I wanted to go to control first, I could do that, but I would have the message box immediately pop up just in case there's a delay and then go to the control. So I think we're done. I think that's it. Save it, and again, always save using this save. Never use this save, otherwise it'll prompt you for a name and then it'll create a macro object over in the navigation pane. We don't want that. We want this macro to be encapsulated, and that's what that embedded macro sign means on the onClick property. We want it to be encapsulated in the form, in the switchboard form, so that later on when we compile the form, this will be compiled with it and it'll just be part of it. It'll make, not only does it speed things up, but it keeps people from messing up the macro. The only way to get through it would be through the switchboard. But I do close it down here. Okay, so now that's done. So I'm going to save again just in case. And I'm going to open up this. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to hit pick customer. Please select a customer from the list. And here's my exclamation point on the warning. Pick customer warning is the name of that little dialogue. Great. I click OK. Where's my cursor? Oh, it shouldn't have opened that. Oh, I forgot another command. Let's go back there. Sorry about that. I forgot to put a way to stop the macro. It's going, even though the end if ended, it's going to continue on, and I have more code be after it. So, oops, just hit the wrong one. I'm in the wrong place. I want to go to this one's on click property. You'll get very proficient at moving around in this thing. You know, when you do something, oh, I didn't want to be there, you know exactly where to go right away. All right, here we go. I want to have something that stops the macro after this if. All right. Some people have asked me, can I do it in the if? And I probably, uh, oh, yeah, in fact, I do. That's right. I take it back. If I did this outside the if, it would execute that first. If, in other words, I was going to do this. I was going to go in here and do stop macro. By the way, there's one that says stop macro and stop all macros. We're only dealing with one macro, but I would recommend still doing just stop macro here. Stop, believe it or not, you can have multiple macros running at the same time. It's unusual, but it could happen. And there may be a situation where if something happens, just stop them all. And then you can do a stop all macro. Um, I kind of think that might be a little bit dangerous. So I like to actually, if a macro wants to stop itself, just do stop macro. So right now where it's at, it wouldn't do anything. This would execute if it was null. You'd get the message, but it's going to open a report. That's what happened to us just now, and then it would stop the macro, which it was going to stop anyway because it was out. If I move it up here, okay, it's outside the if, and let's say that ran, you know, because it was null. I get the message, I close it down, and it stops the macro right away. It doesn't open uh, open report, right? And that would be okay. But what if this wasn't null? In other words, this didn't run. Well, then the first thing it's going to run is stop macro, and we don't want it to do that. We want it to open the report in that case. So I do want this to be inside the if statement. So I'm going to move that there. So now this logic says if that control, the combo box control for pick customer has a null value in it, put a message up there telling the end user they have to put something, you have to pick something from that in order to get that report to open. They have to, when it's done, after the message box is complete, has displayed, move the cursor into that control CBO pick customer and then stop the macro. Don't open the report, in other words. Okay. If, however, it wasn't null, you don't do any of this then. You just open the report, and then when it's done, when it's open, it stops the macro. And that's great. That's exactly what we want. So close it down. Like, yeah. You can, by the way, you just say, if you don't want to hit save and then close, just hit close and then say yes to the save. It knows you made a change. Uh, and then I'm going to go open the form. And now let's try it. Okay. And now I say okay and put me there, and nothing else happened. It did not attempt to open the report. I click one of these guys, Elizabeth Anderson. Always test your macros thoroughly, and that's what I'm doing right now. Or we know they are in there. So I click them. It didn't come up with the warning, didn't move my cursor back there, didn't stop the macro. Here we go. Got her, Catherine Tony's, and only hers. Yep, two pages for her, close it down, and I'm there. By the way, I guess I could have put move it back, at the end of that macro to put the cursor back here, and maybe when I come back it'd be there. But maybe I don't want it to be there. Maybe he wants to go somewhere else. Now he wants to open this one. So this is good. This is good like this. If you want, oh man, there's something else I wanted to see over there for her. Bam, you can click her again and it'll work. It'll open it up again. Oh, I wanted somebody else. I wanted really wanted. Oh yeah, okay. So go pick Elizabeth Anderson. Do Elizabeth Anderson's. Bam, and I got hers. And I want to mess around with this. I'm going to take that out and hit pick customer. Hey, there's no value in there. I need to have a value, and it keeps me back there. Okay, and I go down here and I pick George Lee. Where's George Lee? Oh, here he is. I moved the cursor. I moved the scroll bar. There's George Lee, and I hit pick customer, and the thing didn't come up because, I picked something. It wasn't null. Oh, but he hasn't made any orders yet. Oh, that's not good. I don't want to report for him. In fact, I'm even getting errors in here because, it's got a null value basically for him. Until there's actually an order made, there's no child, and therefore there's no way to have a link back to the master record for him. Now there's ways if you did want to have George Lee again, instead of having an inner join on this particular which I know it's an inner join right now on this particular report, I could have had a left outer join. Actually, take that back. This is a master with a subform in it. All right, and again, it won't show records where there isn't a child because it by its nature it's I got to double check that. Let me go out of here and go into design. I could go and double check that to see how that's structured. Let's see. I want to go and see customer orders, open it up in design view. It's been a while since I looked at this. And oh no, I did it on a query. I did do it on a query that has a join. Here it is. Oh, and it's a very complicated join. It goes across different tables. So you might want to look at this, but you might notice they're all inner joins. If I wanted to be a left join, in other words, had the customers in here, even if they didn't have orders, I would have on this one right here, because it's the one that involves the customers, on its relationship, set its join property to be a left outer join, number 2. But here it's an inner join, which means I can only see the ones that actually share data between the customer and the order table. Here, I'm going to make this so you can see it a little bit better. The order table. I mean, sure, I should have shown that right from the start. Sorry about that. But anyway, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I know. I'm getting out of here. Don't worry. I ain't change anything, so don't worry about it. No, I don't want to change anything. All right. So, going back to this now, the issue at hand was the fact that I've got customers in this list who don't have orders. Now, if I really wanted to be snazzy, I could have gone back and worked on that query to set a criteria to only show customers that had orders in the drop down. All right. But one of the problems with that is when this form's open, that's when this is instantiated. All right. In other words, that's when the query actually happens. Let's say they're in here and we only had a subset, and then they go up here and add a new customer. Remember, this is not going to close down. It's always going to be in the background. So when I click this, in fact, you'll see customers here, but main menu is still there. All right, I didn't close it down. And there's a good reason, because if you keep opening and closing a form over and over and over, Access at some point its memory will overload, and that will be it. And since people go back to the main menu a lot, all I did there is make it so that you can't get there until you actually close this. But once you close this, and that's the same thing with reports, once you close them, it goes back to it, but it's in the state it was when you last left it, which you can see. It still has who I last picked here in there. Okay? And that's fine. That doesn't hurt anything. But if I took a customer out or added a customer, or added an order to a customer that didn't have an order before, I wouldn't that wouldn't update automatically. I would have to basically do a requery whenever this got the focus again. Could I have done that? If I was really building this for somebody in the outside world, yeah, I probably would have. Okay? But again, I consider things like that to be more about access and not as much about information systems. I'm trying to teach you about information systems, all right? Or I should say about access applications and not information systems. Um, but even any other information system you have, when you deal with navigation, you got to think of all the possibilities that could happen at any time. And you know what? No matter how hard you try, you will miss one once in a while, and that's why we have to continually update our software because we will accidentally let something go that shouldn't have happened. I know in here, for instance, we knew that on orders, there's a situation when you have tried to put an order in for a new customer where it hasn't yet created the customer record in the relationship. You know that it will give us a referential integrity error. And I've been working on fixing that. I got most of it done. I still got one little thing I got to fix to make it work. But in this, again, for what we're doing for our projects and everything else, it's not that big a deal. Or for this lesson, it's not that big a deal. But anyway, what about when I have a guy like George Lee and I hit this and the thing opens up? I would prefer it doesn't open up. Now I could do like I just did. I could do some kind of if statement that would this would be embedded then, or it could be one after the other. Actually, it'd probably be embedded. Uh, where first I test as a null, and then I test to see did do they have any orders. Okay, I could do that and then have a message come up saying he has no orders and leave it at that. But one of the cool things that they built in Access is a property for the report that says on no data where I could just keep it from opening, period. Okay. And I did that. I actually made that a standard part of our BOW is to have a macro that all you have to do is attach the macro to the report. And you've been doing that all along, but now we're going to see how it works. So let's go out here and let's go. We don't go to the macro on pick customer. It's done. We're going to go over to the navigation pane. We're going to open up customer orders. Open it up in design view. I know this is open already, but it's okay. You can do it too in design view. All right. You got this in design view now. Go to any one of these spots where you're off the canvases. Do a right click and open up the report properties and then go down to go down in the event part, the on event part of this, and where it says on no data. Boy, I am on the report, aren't I? On no data. Probably I must have gotten off the report somehow. On no data. Again, I just click down here where it's got nothing basically. On no data. Hit the drop down. And again, if you're working with the bowel or if I've given you the objects and I give you the object in the homework, when you do your project, I will give you all the bowel objects and you'll have this there. You will see the macros that are built in. Now, right now, I've got macros that are built into the bowel to help us with our keys, the auto keys. I'll explain those when we get to the second tutorial in this lesson when we actually compile our application. There are lots of them. The macro we're looking for though usually is at the very bottom, MCR on no data. Click that, you're set. So now just do a save on that report. And by the way, I always tell you, you really should do this on all the reports. Okay? Just put that MCR on no data on all your reports that you generate, even sub reports. It doesn't hurt it if it's on a sub report because who knows, at some point you may want to open it by itself and you could have a situation where you have no data and you don't want it to open. I'm going to show you what this macro does. I'm going to show you I could even either open it up here or you could see that it's actually over here in the macros part of our navigation table. It's actually an object. I saved it as an object. This one's okay to have as an object. I've already compiled it. Okay, so but we could still see its guts by opening it up, and you'll see all it has is a message box that's going to pop up that says no data for this report. Bam. Oh, it's a warning, and you close down. In fact, I could have made this information. That probably been just as good. But I'm going to say no data for this report. That's what I'm saying to them. And that's it. That's all it's going to do is just put a message. And well, why did it not open up the report? Because this is the macro that fired. And now things should be copacetic. Let's go out there. Let's open this up in form view and test everything completely. Okay, but let's test what we just did first. I'm going to drop down. I'm going to pick George Lee. I'm going to pick customer. And it says no data for the report. If this worked right, I should hit OK and nothing happened. It didn't. Okay, it's basically back here on pick customer, wherever. All right. Now I could go out here and I could pick one of the other ones that does have one. Go back to Catherine, pick her. Hers opens up, close it down, remove her, remove anything, hit it. You have to pick a customer list. It puts me back in there, so I'm ready to do it. I pick George Lee again. No, doesn't like him because he doesn't have data. I hit all customers, and it still opens that up with all the customers in it. And it's not filtered. We are cool. We are good to go. Somebody might ask, what if I didn't have any customers? That list wouldn't populate. This wouldn't have opened anyway because you don't have data for the report to open. Basically would have done nothing. Okay, but we're going to assume we got at least one customer in here. That everything's good. So anyway, this is done. I've got an application pretty much. I got a thing that shows this. I could open up any report. I could open up I can even open up my some of my critical category tables, my lookup tables. I could open up my orders and in customer orders, products with respect to the orders. I could open up with respect to the product with the customer and have them buried at multiple levels. I've got supplier information. I've got, and the supplier could have products because they're in a many to many with the orders, and the products are all in there. And I've got things that give me clues about them being discontinued and all that. I've got a product demand deal that opens up not as a print preview thing where I have pages of them, but just a continuous thing because it will never be printed out really, even though they could if they wanted to. It would normally just be viewed from a PC or a laptop, and this is good enough to see it. Same thing with the product status, same type of thing. I've got a lot of conditional formats in it. I got the supplier information, which is a master report with with a related sub report in it, and it is page set up for pagination, and I could close that one out. I can look at all customers in a and their orders, or I can look at individual customers and their orders. If I actually have one that actually has data, I could do that. Blah blah blah. And I got all the smarts built in here so they can not get hung up. They can never press a button and wonder what the heck just happened. They'll know what happens. I've got a couple reports in here that are not like other reports that we've done before. One that is labels that I could use to put on mailings that I'm doing, and other ones that are it's actually the catalog, and I could see that I've got pages where I've got all the products and their prices and all that. And by the way, if I go all the way to the end too, it's got a little splash page where it ends the whole thing. In fact, it even's got within it, on its interior a little season's greetings message. That's kind of nice. And the last page even has a place where I could stick one of those mailing labels. Could I have that merge into that? Turns out there is a way to do it, but I'm not going to worry about that here. The fact that I've done all this work for them, they could lick a label and put it on there, or take a sticker and stick it on there. So anyway, but if they really wanted to, there is actually a way to merge that mailing information and have it print right here, and you can print individual ones. I would tell you the truth. I don't think I would ever print one of these from Access or print all my catalogs from Access. I would probably want to have a PDF file that I send out. Can I have that? You bet. Okay. Is that here? Let me see. Yes, it is up here at the top. If you look up here, I could say PDF or XSP. It actually will just do a PDF these days, I think. But it just created a PDF now of that catalog that I could publish. All right. I got to put it somewhere I could get to. I'm going to put it over here on H drive. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. And you see it's generating all those pages now out to that catalog. And now it's going to open it up for me. And there it is. Isn't that cool, huh? How about that? And then I could go and just email that to Kinko's and say I want 1,000,000 of those, and they'll print them out, send them back to me. Same thing with my mailing labels. Either I could print them out here, or I could PDF them to somewhere, have them come back. Maybe do both of them. Maybe they'll even do the sticking on for me. So, geez, I basically pretty much automated my company here by doing that. If you get this thing that says save export steps, I would say don't do that. I mean, that's only if you hit something that you did almost, I would say, daily. It could speed things up, but yeah, if I had 1,000,000 customers, I might want to save the export steps and then just run the. What it does is it creates a macro that's called an export macro, and then you just run that macro and it does the same thing. I wouldn't have to come back in here, but that wasn't too hard to just click those buttons. It's not that big a deal. So you could generate this to a TXT file, but you don't get any of the graphics, so I wouldn't do that. If this was, let me go back here, and there's actually others here. You can build a Word. Wow, I've never done that. I wonder what happens when you do a Word document. I'm not going to try it. It does an RTF document. That could get huge. HTML document. Oh, it could generate HTML. Oh, so that's neat. Yeah, I do remember. I did this a couple times where I have a report that I want to host on the web. Somebody wants to put it up on the web. I can actually generate the HTML code for them in HTML file, and sometimes I think it'll actually make linked files too, but it'll put it all in one directory usually. I could just send them out to somebody and they can put it on in a directory that's accessible from the web then, and they'll be able to see that. I'm going to get way ahead of myself here on things I'll talk about at the end, but one that comes up a lot is, can I make these applications work on the web? There is a way to do it in Access. Actually, the Microsoft Access product is really several products that have been integrated together, and some of the things we've done can be hosted up on a website, and you could actually do data management. You could definitely generate reports and things like that. The problem is there are some relationships that we've done, which I consider to be standard relationships, where they have, for some reason, Microsoft has not figured out a way to make it work from the web, where other companies have, which surprises me. And what Microsoft has done is they've actually violated not only referential integrity but normalization of data in order to get things to work. They've got programs that run in the background, and when you've got a lot of data, it sometimes could be dramatically slow. Not only that, but I've found that they sometimes, remember at the beginning I told you don't ever use a calculated field as a field type. They actually build those, and what I'm saying is when something's derived, they actually save the values, and I don't like that at all. That's a real hazard. If somebody ever wanted to connect to the database on the web from outside, uh, they could have data that is, how do I want to say it? Data that is conflicting. In other words, it may change back at the source, and they had something that when they made the connection, it was this value. Since then, it's changed, and there wasn't a communication that changed, and now it's out of sync. All right. So again, I didn't mean to get ahead of myself and get into that, but since we're on this about generating external things, be careful of that. If you were to generate an HTML file, make sure the things that you're generating are fairly static. And the most static things that you could generate are your reports, basically. And that's why I gave you. You'll see when we go to the customized ribbons, you do have the option to generate a PDF file. Can't remember if I gave you capability to do in Excel. What you would use Excel on would be something like this, where you got the product demand and all that. Um, and I don't even think there's a toolbar for doing that. Is there a thing to do in Excel? Database tools. There you go. Um, you could send things to SharePoint too. I need to point that out to you sometime too. You know what? Oh, I know how. You go over here and you do a print preview, like that. Yeah, there it is. And now you've got data at the top. So now I could go and say Excel and yeah, let's generate this somewhere. Let's go to, boy, you're getting a lot of free lesson here. Yeah, let's just do it out of my H drive. RPT product demand gives it the same name as the object that you did. By the way, file format that did an Excel 2013 format, and that's the most recent one. Wow. So that's an older format. It's still XLS, which you should be able to open even from 2019's Excel version. But if you did any work over then in this spreadsheet and you wanted to save it, it probably will prompt you. Do you want to update the format? And that's up to you. I probably would say no. Um, but let's go over there and see what that looks like. I'm going to open up an Excel now. There it is. Oh, that's the PDF I just opened. Sorry about that. Let me close that down. I want to open it up in. Where's the spreadsheet? Did that not generate that even? I don't see RPT XLSX. I'm pretty sure. Let me generate that again. Maybe I didn't. Oh, I didn't finish. I'm sorry. Open it. Okay, let's just do that. Open when it's complete. So that will open up in Excel when I do that. That's okay. I don't know why it gives me a page width thing. Oh, because it's outside the printable area right now, as it's going to come up in Excel. But I could always go in Excel and fix that. So you see, this is one of the reasons why I don't like it too much. It the captions are weren't brought over. I don't know what this value is here. This 0.62, but a lot of it is the same data. Um, the conditional formats didn't come over, I don't think. Well, actually there wasn't one on here. What it did, this is what this was actually this was generated from the query. These things that say C note. I had a query that tested to see if was there a product note. Instead of showing the product note, the query generated a C note. So there was a criteria on that to create that. Yeah, maybe I should pick the other one. Let me go to the other one. It did that because I resized one of the fields or one of the columns. I want to actually. Well, no. See, these are conditional formats and they didn't show up. So you're not going to get everything. You didn't get this international marketplace thing either. You didn't get this. You didn't get the labels and all that right. In other words, it didn't look the same. All right. So if you want it to look the same, do a PDF. But if you wanted the data, it's weird. Here's a way that you get to data from a report if you want to work with it. But then again, you're not actually working in the database. You're just getting a snapshot of the data. But it is a way to do that if you want to do a thumbnail analysis on something. Okay. Anyway, we pretty much have built a nice little application. Again, it's got this in here and it's got this thing right here, or if I say no, I stay here. But if I say yes, bam, it's gone. Well, you know what? Again, if it's just for me or if it's for people I trust, maybe I just give them that and we're done. I know they're not going to screw around with my objects. They're not going to try to make things look different on the screen. They're not going to delete things they shouldn't. But, maybe they will. Or maybe I don't trust myself. Maybe I won't touch this thing for a long time. And when I do, I don't want to do anything by by accident, oh, I don't want to look at the navigation pane or anything like that, I can compile it. And that's what we'll do in the next tutorial. But before I do that, before I we leave this, and again, I'm sorry that I know this is longer, these are longer, but again, I am giving you a lot of extra detail. I'm doing things that I would normally have said, look at this, you can figure it out by this time, you know enough. I'm giving you the full thing. And that should help those of you who are really still struggling at this point. And if you don't look at this full thing, if you don't take the time, then I don't have any sympathy for you. But at the same time, it's a nice reminder. It's a nice thing for me down. I'm hoping I can use this through the years, as a memory aid for some things. Now, in your assignment, I will not give you won't have anything that's grand. Okay, you'll have some very simple as far as a switchboard goes. Okay, I'm going to give you basically a object where you can put an application title, and it's got those two buttons on there. And but as far as the data to manage, the things to bring up forms and the things to bring up reports, and you'll see this says reports and analytics. I'll explain that in a second. Okay, there is a button in here for each type. So this one, if you go in here, you look at this, if you go over here to its embedded macros, you open it up, you'll see it has the open form, and right now it's opening up the object for the subject form. Okay, you'll want to copy that, put your own in there. When you get them all done, when you got them all done, you're not going to have any more. Then delete the one from the ball object. You don't have to have that command button in there. Since I said that, I may as well mention that too. People have asked me, when I get done, I got these ball objects in there. Do I need them anymore? No, not if you don't want them. You could delete them then. Okay, the FRM subject and all that, the TLK category, things like that. You don't need them anymore, then you don't need to have them in there. They just take up space but they don't take up a lot of space. If they're in there after you compile them, nobody's ever going to see them. Unless you gave them an ability to actually access them somehow through a command button, navigate to them somehow, they're not going to see them anyway. So if they're in there, they're just going to take up space. That's all. But again, not a lot of space. You're going to compile them and it'll shrink them down dramatically. So if you're just scared to delete anything, or if you think maybe down the road, maybe I'll want another category relationship, well, I'm going to give you a full copy of the ball, and you can always copy those objects over. But if you think you're going to need it there, then leave it there. That's fine. But you could delete it. This button, you could delete it after you get all your other buttons done if you want to. If you do and you need it back, again, you could go over, open up the ball, open up this, click that button, say copy, and then come into your application and copy it in where you want to. Or take one of the other ones that you've already made and copy it over and do whatever customization you need to do to make it for the new thing you want to use it for. But anyway, same thing for the reports and the analytics. You could come over here and do go in here and do a embedded macro, and there's the one for open reports. I did it as print preview by default. You could change that. Okay, one thing though I do want to caution you on, when you have a report that is that you want to open in, that when you go into a report, and boy, I wish I had one open here now. Let me go to one and open it up. Let me go back. Let me go back to what we were just working on. It's wild, I get in these things and suddenly I remember this, remember that. And again, because I have a time luxury here, I'm telling you all this stuff. If I go here and open up the report customer order that I had before and go to the design view, you'll see that one of the properties I set for it was to make its default view print preview. Okay, that means that it's going to open up when you click it from a command button, it'll open up print preview. If I try to change that in the command button, it could be a problem. So make sure you really open it up from the command button in the view you want it to open up in. So before, the command button to open up the customer here, if I go down to its on click property and I look at that, you'll see it opens up print preview just like the default was. Okay, people have asked me, what if those weren't right? Okay, in other words, what if that form was done to open up in form view in report, I'm sorry, in report view, and you try to open it up through a macro print preview? It would open up print preview, all right? But the other way around would not work. Yeah, I think you would actually get an error message, okay? In other words, if I wanted to open this up from the macro as in report view right now, make the review report view, and it was set to print preview, I don't think it would open up correctly. Let's try it. I'm going to change this one. Or it may just open up to print preview no matter what, because I set it over there. Let's do this. I can't remember this. It's been so long. Glad I'm bringing these things up. Yeah, see? Not of it. Report view is not available for this report. It can only open up in print preview mode, in other words. All right. So I would just make sure that whatever way you want it to open from here, you actually open it that way. Again, you could open it without print preview and then change it to print preview after it's been open. Okay, but you can't go the other way. If you open it up print preview, it's stuck in print preview. So I would definitely open in print preview anything that you would normally print out. Yeah, I want to print this report, bam. Okay. The only things I would open up in report view, reports that I would open up in report view are reports that I only want to see on the screen. And maybe rarely somebody will print them out because I am going to give them the function, the ability to go up here and say print on it. Okay. So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit because I thought about that couple nights ago, and I meant to make a note to myself too. I'm glad I remembered about that again. So anyway, again, I think that wraps up our building of a database application. But the last step now is to give it, put it into a file that is a compile file. By compiling, we will also protect this thing. What it will do is actually compile our forms, compile our reports. Any macros that are attached to the forms or reports will compile into them unless those macros are actually an object that's out on our navigation pane. The objects that are in the navigation pane, like the macro objects that are in the navigation pane, like the on-node data macro, are compiled, and they were compiled separately by me already. All right. So what happens then when we actually create a runtime version of this? Not only will anybody not be able to get to it through this, but they won't be able to link to it through what's called the back end and be able to get to our forms, get to our reports, get to our queries, get to our macros, get to any procedure, Access Basic procedure that's been compiled with it. And but unfortunately, they can't get to the tables. But even there's something you could do. We won't do it in this class, but I'm going to tell you how to do it or what you can do to protect your tables. So it's pretty slick. It's a procedure I developed myself, and it is entirely procedural, step to step to step. We will go through that step by step process as part of tutorial 07-02. So we'll end this tutorial now, and that will be the next video that you'll want to watch. Thanks a lot.